So again, for an immature system that's constantly doing this, so in other words, she doesn't know where she is in space. She does not have that kind of feedback. I'm shaking her head as if this was a nystagmus, sorry. And then all of a sudden that you get this, even if it's just for 10 seconds, clarity, it's 10 seconds more that that brain didn't have before. Like as a teacher, you know, you can tell, like my kids, they've been read to their whole lives. They're used to actually sitting down and paying attention and just listening to someone talk. It's in their central nervous system. When a child's never been read to, 0 to 5, you see that in kindergarten. You just can't get them to sit still. They don't know how to do it. It's not that somebody's done this. And I'm not saying bad parenting, it's just not an experience that they're familiar with. So it's the same thing. The vision is so important. And that's why when I showed you the baby video in the beginning, same thing, that interaction with the mom, that's key. Because again, I have balance and counterbalance. Because as I gaze, do you see how my whole system's reacting because of that love of a child? I'm not going, yeah, whatever kid, you know, kind of thing, right? No, but I mean, it seems funny, but as a mom, this is what these whole thing that Magna's going to be just doing with her newborn, you know what I mean? It's just doing this, that loving connection that you have, but it does so much for their central nervous system. But to add in, not just like, hi kid, how you doing, but to get that sense of balance and that counterbalance in with them, and then to give it a little bit of a separation, either through the shoulders, you know what I mean? Or I can be here through the pelvis and do this little interactions here kind of thing. Now she's lost me. So here, bring the pelvis down and bring, there you go, sweetheart, kind of thing. It really does so much for that central nervous system. Not only that, but again, it's a very loving experience, except for I'm holding silicone. But so what I'm doing here, what you saw me here, oh, here, I can do it this way. That was another thing that's been asked, because I did it with Fishy, and I did it with sorry. So there's two things that are crucial. I did it with the pelvis and I did it with the head. There are little points, just like if you have fulcrum and lever, drawbridges, however you want to look at that, right? But you're just underneath, right? And you find that little spot. And it can be different. Like that child's head was dysmorphic, you can go there, but at the same time, and 2 had the shunt, so that shunt will run from here, the wire will go down the neck and somewhere go into the chest abdomen, if you're not familiar with shunt, and it'll take the excess spinal fluid and displace it into the system. So that's what a shunt is.
What does that do to the system?
It's now an inanimate object. First of all, it's a higher risk for infection, but you have to relieve the pressure off the brain. I have one baby I work with in South Africa, she has 2 shunts. So they won't G tube her, which I disagree with, because they're too worried that if the G tube gets infected, which rarely happens, but being too close to both shunts, then infecting the shunts, the infection would go too quickly to the brain. I get their concerns, but this child's malnourished and needs the, you know, it needs the G tube. So anyway, so you just come here and you look for that balance point. And all of a sudden now I have to do this with my hand, but I'm going to do it with, so pretend my hand's not here. So there was a balance point, especially with this morning, and you just see that was just doing a teeter-totter off my fingers. So she actually was looking down. I was just there successful enough to keep her so she starts learning that balance point throughout her head. And she can rotate around her whole head versus the head being here, and somehow she either has to bring her eyes down, her cheeks down, or start contorting to get that lower vision because she doesn't have enough synchronized view. So, but by bringing the feet up the way she did was very similar to what I said, where if the head's here and the arms are here, I'll do the beads here and the beads here and slowly bring them in together so she has more of a view. So to actually be here, and I did it with her pelvis too, where she started actually moving her head, and then when she got successful of it, I was able to move back, let's say, a little bit, and then again allow a little bit of that balance point, that she can start working the eyes around the head versus the head working around the eyes. Does that make more sense? So if you all want to fix your eyes, right, and fix them, and now try and move your head around your eyes. It's a very awkward way of keeping. Now try and keep your eyes in a fixed position and actually just move the head.
Oh, I was just, my eyesight.
Right.
You're going to get dizzy.
Yeah, it's a very, very difficult way of organizing the system. So if the eyes actually, like you were sort of doing, where, so don't move the eyes, but with the head. They have to stay with the head movement. So in other words, I can't counter, so only do, so where the head goes, now the eyes will go. Right? So let's say with a lot of kids, what I have to do if I suddenly want to look at Magda, I actually have to throw my head to get my eyes to go over there. Because my eyes can't, now this is what I want you to feel now too. Feel your eyes actually sort of pulling your head around. So again, these are just different ways of having an immature vision in with the system.
CVI too. It's like,
well, CVI, you'll either get, a lot of kids will have the peripheral vision, or what they'll do is more of his case, where he would see the object, or let's say I'm CVIing off of Madison. So it's almost like she's magnesium flare, can't watch it, want to, can come back. And so now I've done it about 3 times. I kind of know where that is, so I'm doing this. So I'm not really looking at you, but that's what I have to do to concentrate to touch this. So that's where you see a lot of people, no, use your eyes, use your eyes. No, they just did. That's about as good as you're going to get. And then you can slowly bring it in. But what you don't want to do right away with CVI is to necessarily, like take Madison. So if I say, look at Madison. Now again, CVI kiddos, eyes, yeah, no. You want to stay away from the eyes. I don't know why. The inanimate object is more. So let's say here I'm doing the CVI and staring around. That's what parents think the kid's bored, right here. So they either go this, and now they CVI this way, and now the object's gone here. You know what I mean? It just confuses the heck out of them. Or they come back, and again, it's like, oh, I thought I saw something, I didn't. So they're not getting the visual confirmation of coming back here. Or they take this away and come in with a new toy. With CVI, you want to stick with really only 1 to 2 objects. Keep them successful up to a couple of months. So it can be very, in a sense, boring for the parent to work with that kind of vision, because they constantly want to say, oh, you're bored with this, let me bring you this. Oh, you're bored with this. I just had one kiddo in May, and they just trashed my toy room. The toy wasn't even on the table, and the child looked back at the toy room. Oh, you want something else? Can we just bring out one light toy? She'd bring the whole box. I'm like, I have to wipe down everything? No, it didn't. That's the case where I like to say mom needed lessons too, but I say that lovingly. So these are just little things. I know I'm throwing you a lot out. The nuggets are on tape, and they'll make sense. I'm not working with CVI every day, but these are things you start filing away. And if you do get someone that has unusual vision, you can start going, you see me. I take a step back even for a second. I just watch that child for a second. Or sometimes even in the middle of a lesson, I'll just back off. And again, I'm after that balance and counterbalance, not so much, especially on babies, where I'm doing a right side versus left. Now, that being said, Annabelle's here for a week. So I do have that luxury. If all I'm getting was the right side and she's busy looking at mom for the first time, I'd rather have that child playing with her mother visually. And so if all I'm getting for the whole session is this butt, but I'm getting this, that's huge. And then, maybe next session I'll just invite mom to sit over here where I can do something like that. But I'm not going to interrupt the bond versus what I'm getting out of the lesson. Because if the child gets both, win-win. And that's why I like working with Diane. It's quite nice just to have, another set. And you can teach the parents how to do that, but the parents are still a little bit at the begin with that doe in the headlight kind of thing. You've got to bring them in, and some parents have learned, oh, my kid's in therapy. and they check out too, and that kind of thing. Although I'm pretty lucky that I have, maybe because of all my videos and people are used to the involvement, they come to want to be a part of the lesson. So very rare do I have the parents sitting there doing Candy Crush off to the side kind of thing. So
Do you give the parents a lesson at all with?
I'll give them quickies. So I do have to take time out to make sure that the caretaker is available to work with that child. So in that case, or maybe I'll give them more like a couple of 10 minutes on the table kind of thing to see if I can get that shoulder backer fixed. But I like to touch, like here, everybody that I've been with, because it takes that stress away that they can now ask me stuff because I've touched them. So again, I've broken that bond. And but also I want them to feel, wow, I really noticed that in my knee. Well, just imagine what your kid's just getting in 10 days. You know what I mean? If you think your knee's something in 4 minutes, can you imagine what it's doing? And then they have more of that understanding.
That's
Because
what I was
a
thinking.
lot of people think, oh, it's just therapy. You know what I mean? So
I think what you do is not just to be seen, but it's to be felt. It's a completely different experience.
it's really neat though how you can work with so many areas or systems where you would normally break it down. Well, that's what the OT would do. That would where a physical therapist would do. Now we have to get in a vision specialist. It's like making a pot of spaghetti sauce. It all starts coming together that you can work on all of these aspects and more. Heart function just improved or breathing improved. All of these things just from a lesson. Where that's what I liked about it. It was just so powerful, and you just more bang for the buck.